Yes, there is the start of the women's quadruple sculls. Only 4 crews in that, and some withdrawals because of injury. Notably, the British do not have a quadruple scull here. The Americans took the world title back in 2015. They don't have a quadruple scull. Do you want to talk us through the boat, Greg?
Yeah, quad scull. So 4 ladies, 2 oars each. Again, usually has a rudder. Someone has the rudder attached to their foot, even on a straight lane course. Occasionally not. Occasionally you can steer it with the blades.
We will take you shortly, I guess, to the lane introduction. So, China, Germany, Australia, Poland, that's the lane introduction. There we see Wang Yue closest to us. These 4 women, all from the Henan province in China. There are 3 Wangs: Wang Ji, Wang Fei, Liu Yang and Wang Yue. There are the Germans, not the same crew that took the gold at the Europeans. In the stroke seat, Julia Leiding. She was in the women's double that finished 4th in the Europeans. So the Australians finished 2nd in the test event. Closest to us we have Katlin Cronin from University of Queensland. Well, the Polish quad, they are really the favourites, I think, to take this event. Won a gold in the first World Cup in Belgrade, 4th in the Europeans. Katrina Zillman in the stroke seat, won gold in the under-23s. Germany late on the start, and they get a yellow card, which means if they do a full start in this race, Greg, they'll be disqualified.
But we don't see too many false starts these days, do we? Now we've used the traffic light system. Back in the day we didn't have that system, but it's so efficient that it's rare that we're going to hear a ring of a bell and see anyone called back for a start, but you never know.
Katrina Zillman closest to you, behind Maria Springvald. Got a bronze medal in the Olympics, of course, without the sun hat, just got the sunglasses over her head, Maria, and behind her in the bows, Agnieszka Kobus, the 26-year-old who was one of the women who took bronze in that quad. There's the Polish blades. Of course, they were coached by Maciej Witkowski in the Olympics, but intriguingly, the Germans have now pinched the Polish coach, and Maciej Witkowski is working with the German quad.
So that yellow card certainly didn't hold the German crew back as they got away from the start. All crews really smoothly away.
I think Julia Leiding, the German sculler in the stroke seat from Bostock, was really careful as she looked at those traffic lights. I'm definitely going to go after the red light comes on. Side shot, and it looks as though the Aussies have gone out with a sense of purpose to go head-to-head with the Polish crew. They went through the 500 metres in the heat with the Aussies about half a length down on the poles.
Yeah, no, the Australians, I think, building with this crew. 3 of them were under 23s, stepping up. Genevieve Horton in the 2 seat. She was in the double at Rio that came 9th at the Olympics. So there's a bit of experience there in the middle of the crew. And they'll want to build on the good performance I think they made earlier on in the regatta and look to see what they can do now, and it really matters now in this real final.
There's a few of the women who were in the under-23s actually last year that sort of got medals. You've got Frauke Hundling, who's got a silver medal behind the poles in the German quad. She's in the 3 seat. You can see the long sort of pigtail just behind her back there at the top of your picture. That's Frauke Hundling, and then sort of, well, another German woman with the pigtail behind her, Charlotte Reinhardt. She was rowing in the women's 4 in Rotterdam last year, non-Olympic event, where she got a bronze medal. Through the 500 metre mark, and Poland go through in front. Well, it says Germany there, but I would have thought it was the Poles.
It does look like the Polish to me. I don't want to be too finicky, but I think that's actually a plait rather than a pigtail, Martin.
I'm sorry, I'm saying pigtail, and I think I've said that. Thank you for pointing it out, Greg, but women all around the world are going to be saying, what's he talking about? Even my daughters.
They shouldn't worry about it too much, but it's the Polish boat here who've really, like you said, they're the class crew to look out for. Gold at the first World Cup in the year, and they're making a nice move. Bent arm catches, I noticed. We've talked about catches already today. Not quite as extreme as the Chinese lightweight double, but again, seeing there in the two-seat, really just locking the arms in, getting the blades covered by breaking the elbow there, and then using a big long back to lever the boat on.
The Polish just go bosh down into rhythm. They don't really, none of their sculling crews rate really high, at least the heavyweight sculling crews, like the Polish men's quad that won gold, I think, in the Rio Olympics, the Beijing Olympics. They just used to go all the way over at 34, just off the start, 20 strokes into 34.
Certainly they did. That was the way they used to set up and row, didn't they? To just get off the start, find their pace, and then just keep churning it out.
And our colleagues from Polish TV are next to us, and one of that Polish men's squad is in the commentary booth, talking with a big smile on his face about the Polish women's quad, who will hit the 1,000-metre mark shortly in front. Greg, I have to ask you, Maciej Witkowski, the Polish coach now of the Germans, has changed this squad around. You've got a different crew, just two of the women in the middle, Reinhardt and Hunderling, that took gold at the Europeans, and he's brought the double in, Carlotta Noaje and Julia Leiding. I mean, why would he do that?
Well, it's interesting because the Germans have done the same thing as well, just changing the double around, changing the quad around. I guess you tend to run a squad of athletes, and now it's interesting to think how much of this is an art and how much of it is a science, whether they're actually using data, using the force curves that the athletes can produce, and how much of it is how the athlete thinks the dynamic of the crew might work better, which I'd say is more that art as opposed to science about looking at the force curves and so on.
So there we see the lead, just over a length's lead. You can see the Polish stern, the white Philippi shell go through, the yellow M-Packers, the German manufactured boats. Behind them, there's the Aussies going head to head with the Germans. They got the better of the Germans yesterday just in the test race, and the Aussies will be looking to maintain that form and maybe just hang on to the Poles. They were 1.76 seconds behind them in the test race.
Yeah, I think the Polish have made a really strong move here in the third quarter, disappeared out of shot, and the Germans have actually just faded back, and the Australians there taking advantage of it and just moving through nicely. But this looks like could almost be a bit of clear water as they come up to 500 to go. Big quarter that from the Polish.
So two of the women in the Polish quad won the under-23 quads last year. Two of the women in the Australian quad finished sixth in that race. Kat Cronin and Rowena Meredith, the women from University of Queensland and Sydney University respectively. They are in the stern of the Australian boat. They're just going out of shot at the moment as the camera understandably concentrates on the Polish. If you're wondering, well, you can pick up Marta Wilczko in the two-seat. She is one of those under-23 world champions last year. Got the cap on, really tall woman, 1.88 m, 6'2" if you're listening down in Australia or back in Britain. That is one tall lady. And the Poles moving out, so they're actually extending their lead.
Yeah, fastest boat on the course, and they're moving out on the rest of the field. Coming in, the Red Boys now sprinting, trying to hold that little bit of clear water and really send a message. You can't see us at the finish.
Lovely back turn. It's really smooth the way that Katrina Zillman in the stroke seat just releases the boat and just lets her hands flow away at the finish, Greg.
Yeah, they do, don't they? It's really, people say that the quad stroke, you need to really front load it, get the blade in, get the work on, and really then get out. Yeah. And that's what they're doing really nicely.
Yeah, don't hang on to it too much at the finish.
Don't open the backs up too much.
Aussies closing up for the silver medal. The Chinese are having a real go in lane one against the Germans for that bronze medal. I think they might get through them. It's very close to the finish line. You can see the Chinese quad from the Henan province just on the top of your screen. Australia do take silver, and then China, yeah, they get the bronze ahead of Germany. Brilliant stroking from Katrina Zillman. Poland having a great day here on the Malta course in Poznan. 6:14.6.
And like you said, they just settled into a rhythm and then kept going, didn't they? So there was no sign of slowing down. They weren't the quickest in the second 500, but the third 500 just kept on going and then carried on through the last. And great to see the crew from China there, just really coming through in that last quarter and moving back against the German crew, who'll be disappointed. And we see them off the start here. They got away well, but then just couldn't quite pick up the pace in the last 500 when they needed to. See these short, sharp strokes as they get away, but moving really nicely, really clean, like you say there about that finish of the stroke.
97.88% of world's best time. So we're looking at world's best times around sort of 97 or 98%. Who's the quickest so far, Greg? Remind us.
The quickest so far is actually the Chinese lightweight women's double. We came in with a 99.4.
So, China on form here. Of course, they had a crew in here from the Henan province who came through the field. You can just see them at the back there. Well, lovely shot of that nice release that we could see from Katrina Zilman, the under-23 gold medalist in the stroke seat of the Polish quad. Aussies taking second place and China coming through for third. Confirmation 6:14.6, over a length in front of the Aussies, and the Aussies decently on the Chinese. Germany had to settle for fourth place in that event.